Okay, good morning. We'll go ahead and get started. Today we're going to talk about the Law 6 being the right price for service management. And for those of you that are just joining this series, I've taken the 8 laws for double-digit profit that we rolled out at the 2016 super meeting, which was a fantastic a roadmap for those businesses looking to really be profitable and focus on the right things. So I've broken these down into segments. So as to how they relate to service management. So really exciting stuff, and just change the content a little bit for the day-to-day interaction that we have with service management. So everyone at this point should be automatically muted. However, if you have questions, feel free to raise your hand. You've got on your control panel on the right side of your screen, you've got the ability to alert me and raise your hand. So would somebody please give me a sample right now, just so that I know that you hear my voice? Beautiful, somebody. All right, thank you all so much. All right, appreciate it. Okay, we'll go forward. All right. So again, just to recap some of the 8 laws we talked about: working the model, what does our business look like? Winning the day for service management, that's a huge critical focus every day for service management. And I've recorded these, so if there are some of these that you'd like to review, I can provide those for you. Let's start by imagining, what does a right-priced company look like? And this is an exercise that you've probably seen before if you've gone through Service System or Leadership Mastery. We talk about what is it to be the right price. So I'd like to take a moment, think in your mind, think of one word that describes what a company that's right-priced look like. All right. I chose a truck for this illustration, one of our fine members, and we have many that really illustrate this point. But what does it mean to be the right price? What does a company that is priced right look like? So if you could, in your search box or your text box down below, just type in some words, and I'll be able to share those. All right. Confident, beautiful. Value for services received, excellent. Come on, folks, don't be shy. Okay, we got another one. Professional, perfect, thank you. So all of those things, if we're priced right, it opens up a lot of doors and to be these beautiful companies. And we have so many of these within Nexstar that are just amazing companies. But it's not that they're ivory towers. It's not they're just these beautiful buildings. They're really great companies that provide a lot of fantastic things for their customers, for their employees, and for their community. And that's what being priced right means. Now let's take a moment to imagine what a company that isn't the right price looks like. If we could please do the same exercise. If you have some words that come to mind, please type those in your text box and share those with the group. A word that comes to your mind for a company that's not right priced. Okay, fly by night, beautiful, sloppy, overpromise, underdeliver. Exactly. Good. And a lot of times companies, it's not necessarily that they're bad companies or they have bad intentions, but being priced right allows you the luxury or the responsibility to do the right thing. The guy rattling around in this truck, he might have every intention of being the honest guy, but let's face it, when he gets the call that he has to pull out this piece of equipment because he didn't size it properly in the house and he doesn't have the resources to weather that storm, he's probably not going to answer the phone call and call that customer back. And unfortunately, that's the reality of a business. We have to plan for those types of things. We have to price for those types of things. So being the right price is not a bad thing. So what is the right price? it's being able to support, and it's a lot of things. I just put down a couple of things that kind of come to mind, but it helps being able to support worthy causes in the community. And the businesses that I've been involved with, and Nexstar included, we love doing great things for the community, for veterans, for um, you know cancer foundations, autistic walks. And there's just so many great things out there, and those are beautiful causes to support. And the side benefit is our employees love that. We love doing great things. And if we have a company, if we're part of an organization that does great things for the community, we feel good about that. And years ago, the company I worked for, I was a service technician, and we adopted. We worked at a homeless mission, and we would feed the homeless people, and we brought our kids along, and it was just one of the most rewarding things. And my kids still talk about that. I mean, we're talking 25 years ago, and my kids still talk about how good it felt for them to be involved in that type of a thing. So being priced right allows us to do really great things. It allows us to pay our team well. Now, we don't want to just pay our employees well, just to keep them, but it's really being able to be the employer of choice, and to attract the top talent, and get the right folks on the bench. And we've got to be able to pay well. And if you're not priced right, you can't pay well. Great benefits. Benefits are increasingly expensive, and if we're not priced right, we can't afford those types of things. And the the more we are priced right, the more benefits we can add, the better we can offer, the more we can be that employer of choice. Savings and security that the company is stable. This is something that's often overlooked, but if you look at what we've got going on right now in Texas, Florida, many regions that are facing disasters and those types of things. If anybody remembers 9/11, and the impact it had on our businesses after 9/11, a company has to be strong. It has to have cash reserves. It's got to be able to weather that storm and keep their employees afloat and keep their company afloat. All right. And so if we're not priced right, you're not going to have that cushion. So that's critical to the long term. And our employees want to work for companies that are stable and secure. They don't, wondering whether or not the lock's going to be on the door when you come in the morning is a terrible feeling. I've been there. The next thing that came to my mind was time. Time is, I think, probably one of the most important things. And when I talk about time, I you know I occasionally speak with members that are just full speed ahead. We're not priced right. We have to really work harder to make the money. We have to do more calls to make the money. And I've had some very refreshing calls with members that have been able to pare their schedule down a little bit, give their employees more time off, because they're doing a better job on the calls that they're on. They're priced right on the calls that they're on. They're more productive on the calls that they're on, and that allows them to afford more time off for their employees. Different types of schedules, that type of stuff. Obviously, recruiting plays a part in that as well. But one of our I think the most valuable asset we have is time. And if we're priced right, we can allow more time for all of our employees. Supporting fun family events, picnics, holiday events, those types of things, those go a long ways, and those are a lot of fun. I've always been very involved in those types of things in the companies I ran: huge Christmas parties, holiday parties, summer picnics, getting gifts for all the kids. Those are memorable events, and they cost a lot of money, but well worth it. Growth cost. Growth is a very expensive thing, and that's usually what holds a lot of companies back from growing, is not having the capital to reinvest in the company, to buy the new trucks, to get the new equipment, to increase the marketing, make the facility nicer, expand the facility. Growth costs money. So by being the right price, you can fuel that growth and end up being a more larger company that serves more members. And then, of course, nice facilities and equipment, those things. As an employee, we like to work in a nice place. We like to drive a nice service van. I really, really wish for that truck exercise above, I could have pulled some of the pictures of some of the early service vehicles that I ran service in. Never had air conditioning. I had one that literally didn't have windshield wipers. When it rained, I would have to reach my hand out the window and clean my windshield off with literally holding a wiper in my hand. I mean, that's how bad it was. And as soon as we sold the company, literally all of those trucks went to the junkyard. So that's a perfect example of not being priced right. And as soon as you get nice trucks and equipment, morale radically improves. Trust me. Okay, we're going to cover the 4 steps to being the right price. We're going to cover these in detail, but the 4 steps to being the right price are to set it, to deliver it, collect it, and account for it. And this is a never-ending cycle. This isn't a set it and forget it. This is a never-ending cycle that we're constantly doing. Being the right price is a cycle. So the key to having your team be the right price is responsibility. And what that means is, do we have the ability to respond to price increases? Do we have a voice in responding to price? What goes into a price? Being the right price. And having the ability as a company to open those doors to that communication and have everybody respond to that. That's very empowering for a company. And a good example of, or maybe a bad example would be, if we've got tasks in our price book that are not correct, but the technician's afraid to speak up because he just doesn't feel he has a voice in this. That would be a bad example of responsibility. Do we have any questions so far? Feel free to raise your hand if you've got any questions or would like any clarity on anything before we go farther. And again, this is a very informal and interactive, so I encourage participation. Okay. Can you get the PowerPoint after? Absolutely. Absolutely. Please just send me an email. I'm not sure if I'll have this be able to reference this pop up, but please just pop me a quick email and I'd be happy to send it to you. Okay. And I can send you the recording as well. Great. Okay, we'll move on. So setting the price quarterly. Um, now, there isn't a set it and forget it. And often, especially when we get new members that join Nexstar and we start drilling into the pricing and taking a look at that, we often see members that are um, haven't done price increases for several, maybe even several years. I mean, I've seen literally where we're companies that are using old price books. They haven't been updated for quite some time. There's no basis in logic and where the prices came from. It's just an old price book, and obviously things go up every year. Constantly our prices increase. So we need to set this quarterly. Quarterly is a great goal for this. I've even spoken with some members that they deliver new price books every single quarter, even if they don't change the price. Think about that for a moment. We change the price every quarter, even though we're not really changing the price. We're delivering a new price book so that all of our team gets comfortable and used to getting the new price book. Because if they get the new price book once a year or once every 2 years, you have a hurdle to overcome because there's going to be more pushback on that price because suddenly, hey, this is a noticeable change. This is a big jump. And the biggest challenge we have to getting our price is typically it's us, right? So in setting it, we have to identify who has the responsibility. Okay, who's got the ability to give you feedback so that we can properly set that price. Couple of key points in setting the price is reviewing the budget and really taking a hard look at what's not in that budget. Okay, what's missing? What do we need to build in for that? And when I say things that could be missing, if we've got this, we came back from a Nexstar meeting and we're all excited and we're gonna, we're poised for growth and we're gonna set this bar really high. That's great. Obviously, that needs to be attainable, but let's make sure we don't miss sight of what are the other things in there in that budget that are gonna go along with that. If we're gonna budget for adding more technicians and training time and days off and family events and some of those types of things, your budget is only as good as the thought process of what you put in it. Okay. So we're going to talk briefly about a couple of the key tools to setting your budget. And when I first came to Nexstar about 4 years ago, one of the things that I was so impressed with was the profit pricer. And some of you are very comfortable with this and have used this quite a bit. Some of you maybe have never seen this mysterious profit pricer. And a lot of times owners don't necessarily share the profit pricer with everyone on the team. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Sometimes there's confidential information in here. You know, we don't want somebody to look at our in financials and dissect, hey, how much did the owner make and some of that kind of stuff. I get that. Um, so you can sanitize it a little bit, but um, this is a really great tool because instead of guessing what our price is going to be, it really gives you a logical way to go through this. And again, this call is not about the profit pricer. I could easily spend the entire hour that we've got today just talking about profit pricer, but I'm just going to go through this at a very high level for everyone's benefit on this call. So the first thing the profit pricer does, it takes into account what is our burden, what is our tax rate, what are the things that are workers' comp rates, all those type of things that go into our direct labor costs. We're going to look at our head counts. What do we have for productivity? How many technicians, how many crews, and this is going to help us back into our sold hours and sold day numbers. All right. Then we're going to take a look at what are our wages. What are we paying our folks? What does that cost us? And this is total compensation. All right. Next, we're going to look at lost production. On the top, we've got lost production that we pay for, like paid vacations and sick days. On the bottom, we've got maybe other days that we allow employees to take off for various reasons. Sick days, call outs, that kind of stuff. But this is really critical because if we start our year with 2,080 hours and then we've got 40 hours for vacation and another 40 hours in time off throughout the year, suddenly we're not at 2,080 hours anymore, we're at 2,000 hours. Okay. And as you can see, as we go through this, how many available work days do we have? How many available work hours do we have? So for this example, we started with 2080 hours a year of possible production time, but after the time off that we've built into it, we've got 1,896 productive hours left, 237 install days left out of 365. So looking at it this way, we come up with what is our billable efficiency? And again, this number is going to vary by company, right? In this example, it's 35% efficient. We're going to sell 2.8 sold hours for every day that we work, okay, per technician. All right. And again, then the next thing that we look at is overhead. This is all of the overhead that we've got for the business. What do we spend on advertising, salaries, depreciation, bad debt, all the things that come straight off our income statement. We're going to plug those in, all right, because that's real overhead. The other thing this tool will look at is over the next 12 months, what are the increases we're going to make? Okay, because typically a business is going to have some increases. Maybe the rent's going to go up, our utilities are going to go up. We're going to add a new CSR. We're going to add another truck. All of these things have cost. So you don't want to deliver a price that's already obsolete. So this way we can build this in on the front side. Next, we're going to take all those overhead costs and distribute it amongst our departments. In this example, we've got HVAC service, HVAC installation, and our electrical department. So we're just going to spread those costs. And again, we don't recommend doing it by revenue because your install department might put up the most revenue, but it's better to do it by time or by manpower. Okay. And so we go through, we distribute those, and at the end of this equation, it's going to give us, what is our break even? So as we look at our break even for this example, our break even per unit was 158. We're going to apply some profit margin on top of that. That's going to give us our value rate number. And then we're also going to, typically we charge our regular customers more than our value customers. So we're going to add another 15% in this example. So our selling price in this example is 248. That's pretty low. This is an actual example. I've built several of these, lots and lots of profit pricers with different companies and updated them several times. Typically This is actually a pretty low example. I typically see companies anywhere from 400 to 475 is kind of what I consider to be the sweet spot, but it is what it is. Whether we agree with the number or not, it's math. Okay. This is what the business needs to be priced right. Okay. So that's the profit pricer tool for those of you that haven't seen it. This is typically something owners and business coaches work together on. I'm just sharing it on this example. So please don't call me for questions or to help you build your profit pricer. This is really something your business coach should be more involved with you in, and they absolutely love doing the profit pricer. And typically we're doing that pretty frequently. And I really love the profit pricer because you can add something in your business and immediately go to your profit pricer, plug it in, and you see the result of what your right price really should be. So it's a fantastic tool, as opposed to the centuries old method that we've been using of, what's the guy down the street charging, or we're guessing at what our hourly rate should be. Okay. Any questions about the profit pricer? I know that was a pretty fast overview, but if anyone would like some quick questions on it, feel free to raise your hand. All right, we'll move on. The next tool is an annual budget. Annual budget's a critical piece for setting your price. And I've got an example of just a rough, simple budget here. And again, when members join Nexstar and come on board for the first time, a lot of times they're not operating with a budget. So this is something that we look at, and we will help them craft a budget. Typically, we're going to look at this over the course of 3 years, so that we see what does your revenue trend look like. Because in most businesses, you do kind of have a in this example, we've got 7% of our business revenue is generated in January, 6.04 in February, on and on and on. So we determine what is that cycle. Then we build in what is, and this is a very basic tool. We have a lot more comprehensive process that we strongly recommend in our business planning workshops, and that's a very, very beautiful process that really includes all those things that go into being the right price. This is just a very simple example, but as a business, we want to know what is our goal per month. What does our revenue number need to be to hit our budget? Okay, so hard to be priced right if we don't really have a budget in place. Okay, so those are a couple of the key tools that we use for setting the price. Next, we have to deliver it. Recommend again, deliver the price quarterly. Quarterly we should be reviewing that, updating our profit pricer, plugging in any new costs that we've got. Delivering, I'm going to say price books, and I know most of us are probably on tablets, and these are electronic processes now. But I'm still going to use, just for the sake of clarity, I'm going to use the term price book. All right. So timing is everything in delivering the price. And what I mean by that is, if you're an air conditioning company and you're going into summer, that's a pretty good time to, get your prices updated and delivered, get the price books printed and handed out before summer. Don't wait till the end of the summer, because chances are our refrigerant has gone up, our revenue, our volume, all those things during our peak seasons, and we've missed the boat on capitalizing on that. All right. So the timing of when you do your price book, typically doing it before the season that you're entering is the best practice. And again, quarterly is the right answer. But if you're not going to do your books quarterly or do an update quarterly, by all means, please do it before you get into each season. Okay. Tasks. Make sure that we're reviewing the tasks that we've got on there. Tasks are constantly changing. We add new products and services. Sometimes we do new things. Hopefully we're always on the lookout for new opportunities. So there should always be new things that we're adding to our price book. All right. We're always going to have price increases from our vendors. Most things don't go down; they tend to go up. Refrigerant, if for HVAC companies has been a rocket. And if you're operating off last year's prices on your refrigerant, you're probably losing money on that refrigerant. So make sure that we're in tune with what does our cost need to be, what increases have we got, and the more responsibility you've got in reacting to those price increases, material increases, and new tasks, the more effective your pricing is going to be, the more priced right you're going to be. All right, so the key points for delivering it is intentionality. Be very intentional about what our pricing is. If we, you know, don't price yourself at below where it needs to be just because you're not comfortable delivering it. Again, math is the math. If this is what you need to be priced at to be a profitable business, be very intentional at that. And the next step in that is communication. So communicating that with our teams. If you're throwing the price book on the seat of the truck and just like, hey, did you get the new price book? Yeah, it was in my truck. We probably haven't done a very good job of communicating that rollout with our team. Regularity, we talked about, be consistent in rolling this out. Quarterly is a best practice, but if you're not going to do it quarterly, by all means, twice a year, at a bare minimum, once a year. The longer you wait to roll out the new prices, the more of a hurdle that's going to be for you. And is it uniform? Are we consistent in the pricing that we're offering? And there could be a lot of reasons why your pricing isn't uniform. Maybe we don't have consistent, the same price book out there. We've got old guys on old price books, for example, things like that. Be consistent with your pricing. Our customers expect it to be consistent. Our employees expect it to be consistent. The tasks that we offer and how we charge, be consistent with that. And the final point here is, are the times accurate? And one of the things that we coach in Service System is, or when we're building our pricing is, we coach to getting your technicians involved in this process. Audit the times that we've got in our tasks, because those of you that have built the Profit Pricer before fully understand that, whatever the hourly rate that you need to be at on your Profit Pricer, well, that can be pretty radically manipulated by the task times that we tie to it. All right. So I would say the task times are just as important as the number that we come up with. Okay? Because if our times aren't accurate, you're not going to be the right price. Any questions so far? Pause here for a moment, just in case anybody's got anything they would like clarity on. All right. Next, we'll touch on a couple of other tools. We've got the one truck exercise. The one truck exercise is taught in the Service System. It's taught in Leadership Mastery. And we've got a lot of members that do this quarterly. All right. So the question is, what do we do if we don't do billable hours at this time? How do you figure out your all great so far, no questions? Good. All right, good. All right. So the question is, what do we do if we're not on a billable hour at this time? You're on time and material. Your business coach is used to that question, so that's a great one. So the business coaches are very comfortable with building that Profit Pricer and taking a look at what your production is and trying to backing that into what that would equate to for a sold hour, and then coming up with a number. And so when we build a Profit Pricer, let me pull that up again briefly here. All right, when we build a Profit Pricer, let me just run back to that MP4 tab. Okay, if we don't know exactly where you are, and we can usually get this pretty doggone close. Now, members who've been with Nexstar for a long time have a very good idea of what their technician billable efficiency is. In other words, how many sold hours a day per technician they're at, because this is that's one of those inputs for determining your price. Now, if you're a new member and you're on billable hour, time and material, then what we do is we're going to look at that and equate that into the tasks and try to figure out, okay, what does that equate to in a sold hour? All right. So we can usually back into that. And if we don't know, a good safe default is going to be 35% efficient. Okay. All right. Perfect. So this is the one truck exercise that we teach. And so the one truck exercise takes a fictional company. So we're going to say, okay, um, our technician is running his own business. All right, what goes into running that own business? What do you want to make? What do you want your salary to be? What's your advertising going to be? Um, what is all the overhead of the business? All right, because a one truck company still has a lot more expense than most people think they're going to have. All right, and so this is a really fun exercise to go through with your technicians. And at the end of it all, it's a real eye opener as to, wow, I had no idea that I would have to price this to be profitable even in a one truck scenario. So the one truck exercise is a great tool for putting the pricing of our business in perspective. And again, I think one of the biggest hurdles we have to getting our price is usually us, right? It's our techs, it's our managers, it's our team, because we feel like this number is big and scary and maybe that's high, or, you know, and even if you're not the technician in the field, maybe you're fielding calls that come into the business. If you're getting price complaints from customers, pretty soon we kind of develop that mindset that, wow, maybe we are really high. Um, because that's what we hear all day. But it doesn't mean that we are. You know, you could cut your price in half, and you're still going to get price complaints. Okay, so the important thing is always be right priced. All right. C1 and wake up calls. We have some great C1 and wake up calls that can talk about pricing for your teams. There is one on the one truck exercise that talks about the value of it. Um, There's price conditioning. Price conditioning is another huge component in your training with your technicians. If you're not talking about, we call it price transparency now. If you're not doing price transparency, that is a huge hurdle. That's something that needs to be part of the process. We teach it in the service system, but price conditioning is huge to getting your price. If we're waiting until the present step, we're dropping the bomb on our customers' heads and they're shocked by this price. They had no idea, which is typically the case. We're missing a huge opportunity by price transparency. All right. We also have some great C1s and wake-up calls on bundling and the ABC process. And then we also have some C1s and wake-up calls on owning the price, the overcoming objections. For those of you that haven't seen the C1s that Keith and Woody built for overcoming objections, these are huge. These are just fantastic. Why are you so expensive? I'm moving soon. Better check with my spouse. These are all great. But the ones that relate to pricing, I've highlighted here in green. And what's the breakdown? Okay, so there's a lot of training resources available to help you with your technicians and the pricing. All right, next we've got the next step is collecting it. All right, collecting it is a daily exercise, right? Every day we want to make sure that we collect our money. And again, uniformity is the key. What is our process for collecting the money? We want to be consistent in how we collect it. We want to define the expectations. And again, this might even start in the call center. I've had a lot of calls to that effect where our technicians are going out, they're doing the work, and really we have not conditioned our customer with the expectation that they're going to pay for today's service. It's just send us a bill. And I know that we have members that kind of have that relationship out there with their customers or in their communities where they're accustomed to billing. But I would challenge you that that's not the best practice and it's not scalable. Okay, so by scripting your call center and how will you be paying for this work today, by credit card or cash? Oh, credit card. Okay, perfect. That if you're having a challenge with that, then include that into your scripting so that you can start to turn the tide on that problem. Training with our technicians. The expectation has to be there that we're going to collect for today's work. All right, we have to collect for what we do, and controlling the discounting. Again, and I know that we've got some members that like to let their technicians control the discounting. They have a level of confidence in their technicians to get the price. And again, I would challenge that. It's not the best practice. It's not scalable. Okay, so someone in the business should be, the discounting police, if you will. Typically it's a service manager, it might be an owner, okay, but there should be somebody other than the technician that's involved in what is that price going to be, okay? Our price is our price. A friend of mine told me years ago that a price book is like the price tag. When you walk into a store, you see a price tag on an item. If you're going to buy a suit, you don't start haggling with the salesperson. It's the price is the price, and that's the way our price book should be. And if anyone's going to have a voice in discounting it, it should be somebody inside. It should be a phone call that is made, that communication takes place between owner or manager and the customer, and then we allow the discount, but that should not be standing operating procedure. Okay, so again, you could do everything right up to this point, build your price, figure it out. Here's what we need to be, but if you're not controlling discounting, you're not going to get the price, so you're not going to collect it. And another piece I added on here is finance training. Financing training should be an ongoing exercise. It's never one and done. And I found that a lot of times there's a lot of confusion about how to do financing. Typically our rock stars become very comfortable with financing and they offer it on every customer. Sometimes our greener or less experienced technicians struggle with financing. They're confused by it and they don't offer it. Okay, so doing ongoing finance training with our teams so that they're comfortable with it, they understand it, and they can speak with confidence to the customer. And again, following the Nexstar processes of assuming the financing. When we deliver the price, when we deliver the summary of findings, we typically assume we assume the customer is going to finance with us. And we don't want our technicians to wait for the customer to ask us for finance, because they typically don't ask us for financing. What they usually say is, let me talk to my spouse, I'm going to think about it, I'm going to get back to you. Okay, we've got a question here. Do you have more info on the finance training for teams? Great questions. We do have some on offering financing on the C1s. Let me pull that up again real quick. I don't know if I'm going to be able to go to it that quickly, but yes, we do. We do have financing. We do have some training on financing. But yes, I can help you more with that. If you want to reach out to me afterwards, I'd be happy to nail that down as to where that is, what C1 or what wake up call, and just kind of walk through what that means. Well, let me just spend a little bit more time on it now. The financing, typically we have different plans. If you're partnered with a Green Sky or one of our strategic partners that's offering financing, typically you're going to have several different financing plans available. And so I would recommend really funneling that down to the finance offerings that you want them to offer. Maybe it's 2, maybe it's 3. Keep it simple and make sure that we're determining what financing we want to offer. Some of those plans can be incredibly expensive. It can really kill your margin. So that's another factor in being the right price. If you're losing 12% for an extravagant financing program, that could really torpedo your margin. Okay. But I think making it as easy for our technicians as possible. If they're on a paper process, laminate the form, highlight the boxes they need to fill out, create an example. Make this as user friendly as possible for your technicians. Okay, and then the key points for collecting it, again, who's got the responsibility, all right? And this could even be somebody in the receivables in the business. It could be a technician. It could be a dispatcher. People need to be empowered to identify when there is a problem and have a voice in how we can fix it. Are our folks using the required paperwork? Again, invoices filled out correctly, customer signatures, all these types of things. Handling the paperwork, handling the paperwork within the business can sometimes be very cumbersome. And again, many of our businesses are a lot more streamlined, now that we're on electronic processes. But really looking at the collection point and the processing point of how can we make that easier, smoother, and less painless, because sometimes we create a paperwork nightmare. And who is impacted by this? if we're spending so much time inside processing and collecting and trying to chase money that we should have collected in the field, those types of things, um, that affects everybody's culture within the business. It makes payroll more challenging. It's just a chain reaction of frustration. Okay. Accounting for that money. Okay, we should be, we said collect it daily. We should also be accounting for it daily. And again, I'm going to look at this more from a service management standpoint. Check everything. We have a lot of things that we ask our technicians to do in the field, our plumbers, our electricians. Summary of findings, filling this out. Maybe they've got a plumbing evaluation or electrical evaluation that they need to, fill out, perform. And if we're asking them to do it, we should be checking it. If you're still on paper invoices, a best practice has always been reading those invoices. Do we have a process for that? And a lot of our businesses are on electronic tablets and those types of things now. So there's some of those pieces that we're missing, right? So we need to figure out what that process looks like so that we're actually looking at what we're doing. And that's what you mean by accounting for it. If we're turning in paperwork, if we're closing out work orders, we still need to be involved in that, looking at this, what's going on. Okay. Are we turning in? Is everything that we're turning in being tracked? And so here's again, this is a paperwork example, but if we require our technicians to fill out a summary of findings, do we really know what is our percentage of compliance on that? If a technician had 20 service calls that they ran this month, did they turn in 20 summaries of findings? Okay, that's an important number to know. Job costing, especially on project work, sewer digs, installations, those types of things. Are we doing job costing? And then again, accounting for it. That's a daily review of KPIs. This goes back to, did we win the day? So looking at what we're doing, our production, individual technicians on a daily basis. Again, this is being in tune, being present, being in tune with what's going on a daily basis. One-on-ones are part of that process. The weekly one-on-one coaching session, reviewing those KPIs, and really looking at that. When we sit down with a technician doing our one-on-one, we're looking at that week, and we should have some metrics in place that we're measuring against, coaching to the shop average or group average, and that's part of the accounting process. And so are ride-alongs. All right. So great things happen when you're the right price, and when you want to be the employer of choice, when you want to do great, fun, and powerful things within your community, being the right price allows those things to happen, and this is where, as a company that you start doing really rewarding things. And my past company, we started doing turkeys and that turkeys at Thanksgiving for underprivileged families. And that morphed into, we were doing meals, and then it started out, we did, 25 the first year. You know, before I left the company, we were upwards of 300 meals that we gave to underprivileged families every year, and it was a lot of fun, but it's very rewarding stuff, but we couldn't have done that if we weren't the right price. Okay. So don't just set the right price, be the right price. All right. So now I'm going to open it up. Do we have any further questions? And I really appreciate the interaction. We had a lot of great questions on this webinar. Thank you for that. It makes my job a lot more fun when we have questions. So do we have any further questions that we'd like to put out there? Okay. And if anyone's not questioning, oh, there we go. All right. Let's see. Is there a good place to start? Great question. Okay, so the question is, where's the good place to start with your pricing? I think probably first thing I would do is get with your business coach, or if you're not, if you're not the primary within the business, get with your owner, and you can share today's call, and if you want to get a deeper understanding of your price or your profit pricer, it doesn't hurt to ask that question. Where does our pricing come from? What goes into our pricing? And again, having that responsibility of, if you see things that are not right in your price, that's a great dialogue to have with your owner. Okay, so a good place to start would be number one, determine where do you need to be. All right. The next step is, of course, adjusting your pricing. Um, Flat rate pricing is, what we recommend as the best practice. But getting a flat rate price book. We have some strategic partners that offer price books. We've got Profit Rhino, we've got NSPG, and some people love building price books. But most people I find kind of get writer's block when it comes time to build that price book. So don't be afraid to lean on these partners and really, get a plug and play price book out there if it's not your forte. Okay. Um, okay, we've got a request. All right. So Bev, by all means, please pop me an email after this, and as soon as I get this recorded and downloaded, I would be happy to share this recording with anyone who would like it. All right, perfect. All right, our next tap-in call is going to be Friday, October 13th. Heath Betts, my East Coast counterpart, is going to be hosting that one, and I'm not sure what his topic is yet on it, but I know it's going to be a good one because Heath is amazing. So that'll be our next tap-in live. And we've got one more question. Let me grab that before we wrap here. Thank you so much. Really enjoyed having great response today and having so many folks on the call. So thank you so much. All right. Have a fantastic weekend and finish September strong. Thanks. Bye now.